Hello, lovely light seekers, and welcome back to another episode of the Light Seekers Lounge. I'm Annie Love, and this is episode 125. Today's guest is someone I instantly connected with when I saw her speak as a guest speaker at ProfitCon last year, and after hearing her story, I knew I had to invite her onto the podcast. Donna Hann is a certified high-performance business and mindset coach, a best-selling author, a mum of two, and a passionate advocate for regional women in business. She's also someone who truly walks her talk. She's built and sold multiple businesses, navigated burnout and big life transitions, and now supports other women to grow successful, sustainable businesses that align with their life and values. In this conversation, we dive into everything from business planning and mindset to marriage, motherhood, and even moving states. Donna shares so generously about what it really looks like to build a purpose-led business without burning out and how to make space for both ambition and rest. In all transparency, we recorded this episode together earlier this year at the end of February. Part of our conversation involved discussing how Donna plans for the year ahead. I was listening back this week to our conversation, and there were just so many gems I needed to hear right now in this moment in time. It was such a good reminder to me that it actually doesn't matter what time of year it is. It's always a good time to pause, to reflect and connect before we move forward. I hope you find some gems in our chat too. Welcome to the Light Seekers Lounge. I'm Annie Love, a coach, mum to all boys, and your host for soulful conversations about building a life and a business that feel good from the inside out. Here we talk about mindset, money, and what it means to keep seeking the light and finding joy, even when life or business feels hard. So sit back and settle in. I am so glad you're here. Hello, Donna Hann. Thank you so much for coming into the Light Seekers Lounge today. So lovely to have you here.
Absolute pleasure. So thankful that you invited me on.
My pleasure. Now, you and I first met when you presented to ProfitCon, the Profit First conference that I went to in October last year. And I know that you'd had some contact with the Profit First community already, giving a masterclass within that community. But it was so lovely to see your session at ProfitCon, and you just brought such energy into that room, and you were the first for the whole conference. So that must have been a little bit daunting. But I loved what you brought to the room. So I was really excited to have you on. And then I also discovered that I had just previously to going to ProfitCon joined Tina Tower's program, Her Empire Builder, and you've been part of that for quite a number of years now. So that was cool too.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, when you start having conversations with people and then there's this beautiful overlap of where your life has connected but you haven't quite connected together. So it was, I really enjoyed ProfitCon. It was the first conference that I've presented at that was full of bookkeepers and accountants and that kind of industry. So because the workshop that I presented there, although it was very much around planning and strategy, there was also the elements of, human, that not necessarily woo-woo, but like some real heart-centered stuff that we worked on. And it's always, as you said, being the first speaker, sometimes a little bit nerve-wracking to know who's in the room and how it will be received, particularly when you're first up and haven't had the opportunity to even really interact with anybody yet. But everyone in the room was so lovely, and I was taken aback by the amount of really beautiful compliments that I received after the session and the reflective nature that the presentation is, then had people coming up and telling me and sharing with me their experiences, and that's always such a highlight when I present at conferences. And you were one of those beautiful souls.
Well, it is a really lovely community, actually. I've definitely experienced that since I've been a part of it. So I'm glad you got to receive some of that love when you were there.
you.
Hmm. Tell me, how would you describe yourself?
Well, the professional version of me is that I'm a certified high performance business and mindset coach. I have had my own businesses for a number of years. This is actually my fourth business. I started, grew, and sold three businesses prior to this one. And one of the things that I love to do is really support regional small businesses, particularly women, and we can talk more about why that is. I have a podcast as well. It's currently called She's in Business, but it's soon to be called the Regional Growth Podcast. Doing a bit of a rebrand there. I am a number one best-selling author, which happened last year, which is pretty exciting. And yeah, so on a personal level, I love to coach people one on one. I also have a membership called the Regional Business Women's Membership, where, my my experiences of speaking in lots of different places means that I'm pretty well connected with other speakers who are really well versed in a particular topic or area of business or mindset that's helpful to business owners. So that membership is where I can essentially bring those people online via masterclasses and things like that to be able to offer that business skill development and mindset, and also working on our soul so that we have that self-care element, to be able to offer that to regional business women everywhere. Because one of the tricky things is accessing that stuff without regional flights or long drives and overnight stays. And also within that container, we do a lot of work around like group coaching and planning out, what the next 90 days is going to look like. So it kind of gives the community and the support along with the business skills and the mindset development skills that we need in order to best run our business. So that's me as the professional. As the human being, at the personal level, I'm married to a country Victorian. We've been married, I think it's coming up 12 years. I always forget. We're actually really hopeless at celebrating our anniversary. Often, like, we'll have spoken to each other multiple times on the day of our anniversary and then gone, oh, yeah, it's the 5th of March. Happy anniversary. So, yeah, I'm a mum of two boys. They are 9 and 12, and our free time consists of lots of trips in our caravan when we can, and lots of boy stuff. So motorbike riding, golf, AFL, fishing, all the boy stuff. I do try and bring a bit of the girly elements in because, I am a girly girl as such. So, I've got a background in performing arts and dance. And so I'll flick on the music, but it always turns into twerking with the boys in the house. It's fun, but, I am a bit of a woo-woo person. So I'm a Sagittarius. For anyone that follows human design, I'm a 2-5 generator. I'm equal parts country bogan, cocktail connoisseur, and I love learning. I am a lifelong learner, and there is nothing I love more than connecting with people and sharing my knowledge with them and learning from them. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I guess.
Beautiful. What a great description. Love it. I loved hearing about your business journey when we were at ProfitCon. Can you share with us what your business journey has looked like so far,
Yeah.
and what led you to being so passionate about helping women, especially in regional businesses, to step into their potential and grow their businesses?
Yep, absolutely. So, my business journey. So, as I mentioned, I've started, grown, and sold three businesses. One of those was a dance studio. That was my, I guess, most recent business, other than the one I'm in now. And it was very successful. I was very fortunate, or I guess it comes down to hard work at the end of the day too. But that business took off really, really quickly, and we had two locations with 300 students in a really short space of time, and quickly grew to a team of 10. And whilst it was very successful and rewarding in that sense, there was also a great deal of stress and overwhelm that accompanied that. And over time, that built up, and I found myself at that point of burnout. And so many times I found myself like lying awake at 2 a.m., worrying about all the things, that horrible feeling of when you've got that tightness in your chest, and your head's spinning and your heart's really thumping and you're lying there thinking about all the things that you need to do and the things that you didn't get done. And, for me at the time, the kids were really small. So my eldest was 3 and my youngest was like 6 months when I started
Oh,
that
wow.
business. Yep.
Yeah.
So they were pretty small. And along with the stress and the overwhelm of all the things that I had to do for the business and for my team and, just all of that, there was also a lot of guilt that was really present for me at that time because, I would each week I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do this differently. I'm going to be more present with my kids. And every week I would find myself breaking that promise because another day they would be in front of the TV whilst I was behind my computer doing all the admin and the stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you don't necessarily anticipate when you first start a dance studio. But there was so much that went along with that. And so, that was really big. And my relationship with my husband was starting to become quite stressed as well. He worked really long hours and, we became like ships in the night. I would sometimes leave to go to the studio in the afternoon and the kids would be with a babysitter and he would come home to a babysitter and to kids that were ready for bed and it just wasn't really working. And so I remember I got to the point where I just didn't want to live that way anymore. And, it was really stripping the joy out of what I was doing. And it wasn't the way that I wanted to raise my family. And it certainly wasn't the, the marriage that I wanted at that time. So I got really clear. Like I remember specifically getting out of bed on this one particular night because I was just over it. And I sat down at my desk. I got a big notepad out because I'm a bit of a visual person. And when I put words down on page, it really helps me to get clarity. And so I'm like, right, what do I want? Like, what what do I need to do in order for this business to work for me and my family? Uh, what's not working and what could I do differently? So I started to get really clear around my vision and my values. I started to really pay attention to my numbers and look at ways that I could leverage that. Systems became a really big priority so that then I could delegate more to my staff. And essentially, what I did was completely reshape the way that I ran the business. And that allowed me to really step back from it and lead the business rather than being in it all the time. So, I went from working every minute of the day that I could possibly squeeze around my family responsibilities to actually working very minimally, but still turning a really great 6-figure profit year on year. Which was amazing for a dance studio, particularly in a regional town when I only really understood and I guess appreciated the size of the business that I had built when we took our eldest child to go to primary school, like when we were looking at all the different primary schools, which one do we put him into? And the dance studio had more students than 2 out of the 3 primary schools in our
Oh,
area.
wow.
I was like, "Oh, whoa." I didn't kind of realize that. So, yeah, I was really proud of where I got the business to and that it wasn't dependent upon me anymore. But then I share this at ProfitCon too. There was this sort of time where I guess the universe goes, oh, well, it seems like you've got all your shit together, so I'm going to throw this at you now. And that was that COVID came along in 2020. And I know that was hard for, a lot of people around the world, but it meant for our dance studio that we couldn't run classes in the way that we had. And because we fell under the Health and Fitness Award and, under that umbrella of activity, we were one of the first industries to kind of be shut down in the way that we had traditionally delivered classes. Um, and so, thinking on our feet very quickly, we decided to pre record our classes for the entire term, 10 weeks worth of content for multiple different genres, multiple different age groups, and figure out a way to kind of like drip feed that video content to our students so that we could continue our revenue that we needed to run the business, but also so that they had something whilst the world was shutting down that would help them as well, because dance is so important for our well-being.
Mm.
And we managed to do that. It was very new and a bit of a new frontier for dance studios to run in that way. But we'd nurtured our families and we'd built so much trust and rapport with them over the years that they were happy to be on board with that. And it worked really well. So that was great, but it was very challenging and stressful. Um, the other thing that happened pretty well around the exact same time was even though the business, I'd worked really hard to get the business into a different position, the relationship with my husband was still very strained. And the, I guess the really frustrating part of that was that I was probably more available than I had ever been over that 5-year period to work on our marriage, but we just reached that tipping point, and so we decided to separate. Um, and that was the hardest 5 months that we've ever been through together. At a very tricky time when COVID was all around as well. Like, it was just crap. Um, and my dad was also diagnosed with terminal cancer around the same time as well. So it was just a really tricky time.
Mm.
But I guess at that time, I could have just been like, had enough. What did I do it all for? And being super frustrated with that. But because I'd done so much work on my mindset, I was like, okay, hold on a minute. Maybe actually this could be divine timing. Maybe this could actually be exactly what we all needed. And instead of seeing it as an absolute shit show, even though it was, to see it as a gift. And so, because the business was running without me, and because we weren't showing up, I didn't have to show up with my face at class because we were drip feeding the content. I could actually work on my marriage and I could be broken and I could work through what I needed as a human being from that relationship and how we wanted to raise our kids and what we wanted to do differently. And it gave me that opportunity to really get back to me. I wasn't wearing the hat of a business owner in the way that I had been. When he had the kids, I could just be me. I didn't have to wear the hat of mum or wife or any of those other responsibilities. And it really was a gift to go deep within myself and figure out what I wanted and how I could make my life as aligned as possible with the other elements that come into that. So that whole experience, I know that's really long-winded, but I feel like it's important to share.
Yeah.
Uh, that whole experience then left me in a position where I was like, I don't think I want this business anymore. I actually want to sell this business. And it took another year or two to actually get it to the point where it was off my hands. But in that process, I also went, what am I going to do if I don't do that business? What's next? And so that's where what I do now came about. So I realized that as an ambitious woman that I am, being a regionally located businesswoman that I am and was at the time, it was really hard to find support. It was really hard to access the information that I needed to build my business skills and my mindset skills, and also to have a community of like minded women that also get what it's like to run a business and a family in a regional area with all the other responsibilities and things that we have.
Mm.
And so that's why I'm really, really passionate about helping ambitious women turn their businesses and that business overwhelm into clarity, into confidence, into a sustainable, successful business with the experience, of launching and growing and selling businesses over the years. I feel like I can help other women to be equipped with strategies and mindset and support, and to be able to help them to build that profitable, purpose driven business without the burnout that so many women go through. And I think it's something like there's a statistic of about 20% of regional businesses fail because of business burnout.
Mm.
And it doesn't have to be that way. So whether it's, whether people are starting up or scaling up, I help regional businesswomen to step into their potential to be able to go to the level that they want, the success that they want, as in their own vision, because we all have a different vision. And so, yeah, that's I guess that's what drove me to do what I do now, and continues to feed my passion behind the mission that I have, is because there's so many talented women that have so much to offer the world, and yet sometimes it can just feel so hard. And if I can make that journey a little easier, then I feel like that's fulfilling my purpose for being here on this earth.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, you've got such amazing experience there, like, and incredible business experience in selling businesses and things like that, but also some incredible human experiences in there too that I'm sure everybody can relate to in some way. Um, and we don't run businesses in a vacuum, do we? Like, there's so much that goes on that's that impacts how we can run a business when we have families. And yeah, amazing. So just to clarify, just to put a close the loop, you ended up returning to your husband, or you
Oh,
found
yeah.
each other again?
Sorry. Yes. Yes. So we worked really hard. We did some counseling. We each, I guess, expressed to each other what we both wanted and needed from one another. And yeah, I think it's been 5 years now since then. And yeah, things are good. Things are great. And yeah, the other thing that I guess I didn't mention is only a few months ago we relocated states, so that's been like a big change, and a big challenge and a new frontier of things that we had to manage together. And I feel like it's a bit of a, something to be really proud of that we did that. And
Yeah, totally. One
so
of those experiences that can either bond you or destroy it. So
yeah,
that's
yeah,
good
yeah.
news.
That's a good test.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were able to sell the dance studio.
Yeah. So I sold the dance studio to one of my teachers.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did it via vendor finance because she was only 21,
Yeah,
um,
wow.
which was a great, I think it's actually a good age to have a business like that, because it does actually get quite tricky when you've got your own children
Yeah.
doing after school activities and the business that you run. The main revenue stream is those after school time slots. So it was great for her because she didn't have those responsibilities. She had the freedom and time to do what she wanted when she wanted, if that makes sense. But also, being young, she didn't necessarily have the capital behind her.
Yeah, of
And so
course.
that's why we went down the vendor finance route, and it worked out really well for us.
Hmm. Yeah, amazing. So tell me about these major life shifts that you've just done over the last little while. I think you were just about to move when we met you at ProfitCon, right?
Yeah, so it was November, wasn't it, ProfitCon, or was it October?
October, end of October.
Yeah. So, yes, so I originally grew up in Western Australia, and 20 odd years ago, I started exploring the world a little bit, and that kind of took me on a journey up into the Pilbara, doing some work up there, and then eventually we actually ended up in Queensland. And so for the last, I reckon, about 15 years, we lived in Queensland. Loved it. We lived in a little town called Tannum Sands, which is on the coast, sort of quite close to Gladstone as a landmark. For people often don't know where Tannum Sands is unless they've kind of visited that area. But it's beautiful. It's like a gorgeous little community. Because we'd lived there for so long, we knew everybody, and we had a gorgeous group of friends who are, my soul sisters. I miss them so much. We raised our children together. We all fell pregnant around the same time. So we went through some big life changes together. But yeah, last year, I think it was around like June, my husband had the opportunity to apply for an internal transfer in his job, which meant it would bring us back to Western Australia. And so it was kind of an opportunity that was too good to pass up. So we went for it, and he got the job, and then it all happened so quickly, Annie. We went from, not knowing it was even a possibility to 8 weeks later, we had moved states, and we had
Yeah,
sold
wow.
our dream home that we had just renovated and spent our savings on. And we had sold the house, packed everything into sea containers, and got the kids into a new school, which I don't even know how that happened, Annie, because there was a huge waiting list and we just managed to slip in. I think the universe literally had like parted the waters for us to make this change happen very, very swiftly. And then once we got here, it just closed straight back up. So everything went really well, and then it didn't. So once we got here, we thought we would be able to. We had a property lined up that we had an offer in on, and that went sour. It just wasn't. It wasn't what we wanted in the end, and it was really stressful. And the kids, I guess change is really hard, especially when you are in a new place, in a new school, and you don't know anyone. So that was really tough for the boys. And yeah, we ended up in an Airbnb for about 5 months before we eventually found the house that we now live in and were able to move in. So that was, that was pretty testing and trying. It was long in the tooth because we thought when we left Queensland, like I said, we had a house under offer. So we just put what we thought we needed for the first kind of 30 days because that's all we had to wait until we could move in. So that's all kind of like what we took, and everything else was in the sea container. And then we ended up having to kind of work through a really long period of time in an Airbnb, which was, yeah, tough on the kids without having all their stuff. But now we're settled. We've got our place here. We're in Mandurah, which is about an hour south of Perth. And I have my family, I have my mum here and one of my brothers and his kids. So that's really lovely that we've got that. And we're just working on, I guess, building our network and, making some friends. I've got it on my vision board, make some new friends. um, and yeah, we're just trying our best to adapt, I guess. And
Mm.
yeah, the biggest thing we miss is the community. We really we like being part of a community, and I guess that's the thing that regional living really encompasses. So, but it's exciting at the same time. So
Yeah. Fresh starts, but yeah, that always
yeah,
comes with transition and growth, doesn't it?
yeah,
And especially when you're like, you're not just doing it alone. I mean, there's one thing about feeling homesick and adjusting and things like that, but you're kind of also managing everybody else's emotions and
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and so as a result of exactly that, what you said, managing emotions and the changes for everybody, because I really needed to, I guess, take the lion's share of that for the family so that my husband could really focus on his new role. Like that's really important.
Mm,
Focused on that. So it was, it came down to me to, making sure the kids are settling in and helping them through their emotions and trying to find the house and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a bit tricky, but it meant that I had to really put my business into a holding pattern. And
mm,
so for the last like 8 months or so, I kind of disappeared a little bit. I stopped doing my podcast. I stopped really doing consistent social media marketing, which I've always done. And just had to really put into the other things. And one of the analogies that I love, and it's helped me so much over the years, and every time I share it, people go, "Oh, yeah, that's so good to remember." Is when we're juggling the balls in the air, like identifying which ones are glass
mm,
for the season that we're in and which ones are rubber and that can bounce and can recover. And so, I had to, for a while there, I was trying to do everything because I didn't want to, I'd worked so hard on the business and I didn't want to let that go, not go,
mm.
but, I didn't want to see that all the hard work that I'd done sort of feel like it was for nothing. Because
Yep.
naturally, when you stop putting in, it just naturally sort of starts to die down.
Yeah.
But I had to really go, hold on a second. What are the glass balls and what are the rubber balls here? Right? My business can bounce. Yeah, it's gonna hurt a little bit because things were going so well to then allow that to kind of fade and go into the background for a while. And I know that's going to impact my business in the short term, but it is a rubber ball. It can bounce. I can put the work back in again,
Mm,
and it will come back up. But my family, like their well-being, this big change. It's a big change. It's a big change
Mm.
for adult to cope with, but even more so for little people. And those are my glass balls. I have to look after that, and so that was the analogy that kind of got me through that time and allowed me to, I guess, be okay with putting the business into a holding pattern and not
Mm.
stressing about it and just trusting that the universe has got our back. There's a path that's been carved out for us. Doesn't feel very clear at the moment, but it will be, and we'll get there. And now, months on, it is that clarity is starting to come in, which is nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. And, I guess too, also the beauty of the flexibility of a service-based business, an online business versus, an in-person dance studio means that, you probably can maintain your membership whilst just not doing as much on the front end.
Um, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It will come. It will come. I think too sometimes, like, I remember when we bought and sold a house a couple of years ago and getting to the end of that and going, "Wow, I am quite tired." That
Yeah.
really did take a lot out of me to manage a house and family and everything else that was going on at
It
the time.
really does. Yeah. And I think it's important to share that, Annie. Because sometimes it feels like, particularly when you're running a business, you're like, I've got to have my shit together. Like, I need to make sure that that's what everybody sees. Which, yes, there is a level of professionalism that we do need to uphold 100%. But you're right. Like, it really does take the energy out of us, and we're humans. So, I remember getting towards the end of last year. So, like, the end of November, we moved into our house. And I was like, "Oh, I've got to get back into work." But I was tired, like what you just said. I was exhausted. And energetically, I wasn't in the mood to do business, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Okay, I can gift myself the next couple of months and I can wait till February to get back into my business properly." And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I share that openly because I think we will burn ourselves out if we don't listen to what we actually need and allow that to be okay. Uh,
Mm.
and give ourselves permission to do that. And sometimes hearing it from somebody else, like on a podcast, like the way that we're talking, if there's anyone listening that is maybe feeling that and needs almost like a permission slip from hearing it from someone else, I'm giving it to you.
Here is your permission slip.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there are seasons. Like there are seasons in life and in parenting, and sometimes it's easier than others. And yeah, we do have to be aware of those glass versus rubber balls. I think that is a great analogy. So now that you're starting to get back into the year, I would love to know what like planning and strategy looks like for you when you're mapping out.
Good question. So being that I have school age kids and a mum, um, you know, December and January is pretty much written off for me. I don't know if it is for you, Annie, but I really, it's hard to keep your business running. And having the online business where I can work and choose my own hours is that's part of the reason why I went down that route for this
Mm.
business model, is so that I could. And so I think there's like this pressure that happens towards the end of the year and the start of the year to be like, I need to know what I'm doing. Like, I need to have this clear plan. Um, and that just didn't work, and it hasn't worked. I've tried in the past to do that. And, yes, I always have a rough idea and a plan of what the year's going to be for me. But I've actually declared that February is my new January going
Mm.
forwards. And there was a quote that I found from Samantha Wills, which was really great. And I might be able to find it and share it with you. That basically, like, like the permission slip. It was like, hell yes, that is exactly how I feel. And February will be my new January. And so, although I do like to spend that time at the end of the year to kind of figure out what I want to do, for me, really, February is when I hit the ground in my business. And so, yeah, like what I presented at ProfitCon, the workshop that I presented, is basically what I use to figure out how I plan and structure my strategy for my business. So the thing that I like to do is first of all practice that self-awareness. So doing there's an 8 wheel of life activity that is really, really beneficial for this, to go through and go like, how am I feeling about all of the different areas of my life as a person, not as a business owner, like take that out of it. How am I feeling in my heart, in my soul? And then doing a bit of a business health check to see what things are going well, what things are not, what needs some TLC, what things, is fine and I don't even really need to think about. And then looking at, what are the 3 things that I'm most proud of? And what are the 3 things that I really need to improve upon? And that gives me some clarity around obviously what things I need to improve upon. That's really important to the business, but it's also integrating that 8 wheel of life and also the business health check together, because we need to build a business that is in alignment with our core values. Because what happens if we don't is we might be striving and driving and hustling for this business, but when we get there, we're like, oh, this is not what I
Mm.
expected. Or, there's this inner resistance all the time that you can just feel. It's like an undercurrent, and that doesn't feel very nice. That steals the joy. And we also don't want to burn out in the process. So if we can get really clear of what our core values are as a person and how that's been feeling, whether we've been in alignment with that or not, and then what can we do to improve the way that we run our business, operationally, and what our vision is for that business to coincide with our values, that's where we can get a really beautiful synergy that happens there. And then once I've got that, I love getting butcher's paper out and colored markers. And I will start to go, right, okay, my 3 areas that I want to most improve on, what does that look like? And I pull it all apart and then kind of put it all back together and create a 1-page plan. And on that 1-page plan, I'll have like 3 business goals or projects that I really want to work on. And then I will have some self-care goals that will sit with that as well, because I know that in addition to making sure I hit those goals, I've also got to make sure that I have the energy and the emotional strength and the mental strength and the physical strength to make that happen. So I have to have some self-care in there. And then I also have some family goals as well, because that's a really big piece of the puzzle for me. The reason that I do what I do is, yes, to help women to grow their businesses and do it in a sustainable way, whilst maintaining their well-being and their relationships. And I have to do that for me as well. So there's family goals that sit within that. And once I've got that, then I will go through and go, right, what are all the nuts and bolts of those things? And then I like to have an accountability buddy. I've always had a coach myself. And so I'll share that plan with them to make sure I've got that accountability. And that's kind of, I guess, in a really quick nutshell, how I like to plan and create strategy for my business. And it's worked for me over the years. And I've shared it with lots and lots of clients, whether it be in a workshop conference style setting, or when I work one-on-one with my clients, or, in my group coaching programs that I offer as well. That's something that we work in when wherever we're doing planning. Yeah.
Mm. Love it. And I can totally wholeheartedly agree with the butcher's paper and coloured pens. That's my favourite part too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is, I think it's so important to reflect on where we've been to work out what's next,
Yeah.
as opposed to just kind of launching in and going, right, what sounds good today? So I love
Yeah.
that.
It's easy to get caught up in the shiny things
Oh, absolutely.
and the trends and stuff, but does it really benefit the outcome that you want and that is in alignment with your soul and what fills you up?
Mm,
And so, yeah.
yeah, definitely. So running a business takes a certain level of resilience and, courage and strength. What are some of your suggestions to help people kind of build up their resilience and mindset when it comes to running a business?
Yeah. And you're bang on. Like it takes a lot of resilience, doesn't it? I think too, the reason it takes so much resilience is because, you love it, you enjoy it, you can see value and benefit in it for other people. But sometimes, it doesn't always go to plan. And one of the key things I think around resilience and mastering our mindset is self awareness. practicing that, for me, writing really helps. Again, it's like the butcher's paper thing. It's getting the thoughts and feelings and stuff out of my head and down on paper. Um, so writing for me helps me to better understand myself. So I try and do that on a regular basis. And I think the willingness to be courageous in the space of vulnerability when we're really that resilience is wavering, So being really open to understanding more about yourself and being courageous to see your flaws in that and then take some action steps to improve on that to benefit those around you, but also yourself. I think that's really important. And with that as well, kindness and compassion for yourself. We don't always do so well at that as humans. I am very self critical and I have, negative self talk like everybody kind of does, but it's that self awareness of when that starts to happen, actually stopping yourself and having some tools in your toolkit that you can reach for to get yourself out of that yucky spiral that sometimes happens. And then I think allowing time, allowing yourself space, pausing is really powerful when you're in that really tough place, and you can feel the resilience like weakening, and to be able to just pause in that and go, hold on a minute, just let me breathe into this for a second. What's really going on? Like, why am I really feeling this way? Which then, leads me to having a coach. That's why I've always had one, is because sometimes you just need to get out of your own head and allow somebody else in. You
Definitely.
and being a business and mindset coach, I do have lots of tools that I help people with, but sometimes you can't see through your own stuff and you need somebody else to help you through it. And that's why I'm a big believer in, finding the right fit, finding the right coach, and being a coach myself, also having a coach and practicing what I preach. Yeah.
Mm, definitely. Because, doctors still need to go to doctors. And, one of my favorite quotes is that you can't read the label from inside the jar. And I think,
Yes.
I think that's so applicable to me. I might, I might be a great coach, but sometimes it is hard to see your own stuff. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, beautiful. Now tell me, you co-authored a book last year.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Tell
Thanks.
me about your experience of that and launching it out into the world.
Yeah, so it's a book. It's called Try and Stop Her, and it's a collaborative book, 24 authors. We all got together and we each wrote a chapter for that book. And the basis of it is that we're all business owners and we're, I guess, sharing our story about why we came to be and, what we do inside of our business and what kind of led us to that space. So it was a really interesting experience to be part of. When the idea was first presented to me, I was like, hell yes, I want to do that. But in the same breath, I was like, writing a book though, do I really want to write a book? It's actually never really been something that I've really wanted to do. And I know that sounds
Mm.
kind of opposite to what you'd think, but yeah, I've always just thought, oh, yeah, I don't really know if I want to write a book, but a chapter, yeah, I could probably do that. I could dip my toe in the water there with that. That's doable. So, I also saw the strategic benefit in it for the business, in that there's 24 people that'll all be promoting the book. That means more eyes will be on it. It means it's going to get this great reach, all across Australia. To me, that's a great marketing tool for a business owner. So I was,
Mm.
yeah, I'll do it. So I said yes, and then a couple of weeks later was when we decided to move into state. The timing wasn't great, and moving states, and the romantic vision that you have of writing, it wasn't that for me, unfortunately. So, I had really big moments of overwhelm when my mind was just so scrambled with all the other things that were happening in life at that time, that like I was like, oh my God, what do I even write about? When I said yes, I had a really clear picture in my mind of what I was going to write about, because I was really solid in what was happening at that time, and then, yeah, it became pretty scrambled after that because we also weren't 100% sure where we were gonna move to, which I know sounds peculiar, like, why would that make a difference to what you write about? But I'm like, I'm a regional business coach. What if I'm not regional anymore? Then what do I
Mm.
so do I write a chapter for a book that's gonna be on somebody's bookshelf for a very long time and talk about regional business, but I don't am I gonna do I need to pivot on that angle when I get to WA? We might not be regional, like, so, my head was just everywhere. Um, and I also wanted to make sure that there's a lot of value in it for the reader because, spending the time out of your life to read a book, you want to get something out of it. And I didn't want it to feel like a waste of time for whoever was going to read it. So, my chapter is called Confessions of a Business Coach. And as you can probably tell from our conversation, I am a pretty open book. I will talk about all things. And so, I wanted to share the warts and all experience of running a business. I wanted to talk about burnout. I wanted to talk about how I reshaped the business to give people inspiration to know what's possible. I wanted to share about, the separation that I experienced because, we the life and business go together. You can't just separate it like that. So I think it's important to share all of those things. Um, and so the other interesting process, I guess the reflective process of writing a book means that it was a really uh, incredible opportunity to actually appreciate sort of how far I've come and what I've achieved in my time. And I think just like everybody, we sometimes don't celebrate what we do because it's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? So it was an interesting experience to do that. And yeah, and then, because I wanted to give some value, I shared my story, but then I also made sure that there was something tangible for people. So I finished my chapter with 8 steps for building a successful and sustainable business that's values aligned, whatever that success means for you. And of course, it's very much infused with self care because, business is not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we need to be really mindful, as have already said, about our energy and how we sustain that growth over time. And, I really believe that self care isn't a luxury, that it's essential. And so is managing your mindset. So, it's all in there in that chapter and in those 8 steps because if we can have business skills and we can have mindset strategies and self care rituals as well, that's really where we can create the business and life of our dreams. And so, yeah,
Mm.
that's why I do what I do, but it's also, what I included in the book was all of those things. So hopefully anyone who reads it does get huge benefit from it. Uh, and to feel a little, I guess, seen and heard and understood on the business journey by me sharing kind of vulnerably all the things that has happened to me over my business journey.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, we'll definitely include a link to that in the show notes so people can go and buy it. Do you know, it's available on your website?
Yeah, it is available on my website, so I can definitely share that link with you for the show notes. Yeah, so I think I don't want to give you the wrong link over
That's
the
okay. We'll put
podcast.
it in. We'll put it in. All right. I'm going to finish off with asking you some questions that I ask all of my guests. How
Okay.
do you find joy when life feels hard?
Good question. Um, it's going to sound really cliche, but practicing gratitude is a good one. I think if you can, even if it's tiny things that you're grateful for, it just helps. Talking to friends is a really big one for me. And, I have to be in the right headspace for this. So sometimes it's a bit tricky when you're feeling really, ugh. But putting on some music and just dancing and singing really loudly, I think really helps to shift that energy and feel a bit more joyous about whatever's going on. Yeah.
Definitely. There's nothing like kitchen dancing or just putting on a great song in the car that lifts our spirits, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
How do you look after yourself? What does self care look like for you in your life?
I like to do a bit of a morning ritual for myself. And there was times when the kids were a lot smaller that this just wasn't possible. I tried and it was just too hard. But now they're a bit older, what I like to do is I wake up a good hour before they wake up. And I will make myself a cup of tea, and it's just actually just out here in front of my window. Um, I've got a couple of chairs and a table, and I have, my gratitude notebook. I also have some tarot cards and some, like, what are they called? Oracle cards, and a sage stick. And so it's just my moment in the morning before the rest of the world catches up, where I have a moment to myself, and I will do a bit of journaling. I'll sit and I'll just sit, have my cup of tea. Sometimes I do a bit of, breathing exercises. Sometimes I'll read a few pages of a book. I'll always pull a tarot card, and it'll just be one to be like, what's happening today? And that's my little self-care ritual that I do almost every day. If I don't do it, I feel a bit off, so I try and
Mm.
make sure I do. And then, sleep is sometimes a challenge for me. I'm ADHD, so like winding down at the end of the day can be quite difficult. So I read novels before I go to sleep, and that's also a self care thing for me because it's just nice to just snuggle in bed and read a book before dozing off. So yeah, that's what I do.
Mm. Me too. That's my favorite way to end the day too. Do you have a favorite tarot or oracle deck?
Um, that I only have one tarot deck, and
Okay.
that was given to me by my dad when I think I was about 15. And I don't even know what type it is. Like I don't know. But it is, I think it's just your traditional, like the major
Mm.
arcana and the minor arcana. And I have a little book that came with it. And yeah, like I'd actually probably like to learn properly how to.
Mm.
But for me, it's just a little check-in, really.
Yeah.
It's just an opportunity to feel into it. And I do have a spiritual connection to something other than me. Like I'm, not fully into it, but it's definitely something there
Mm.
that I tap into. So yeah, and I actually find it really hard to choose oracle cards. I've got one deck of oracle cards, and again, I don't really know what they are. I should have prepared for that. I find it really hard to choose oracle cards and angel cards. There's always so many, and I'm like, oh, the pressure to buy a deck,
Mm.
and then you open it, and it's like, yeah, So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I've probably got about 15, maybe
Do
20.
you? What's
Yeah.
your favorite?
Look, when I remember buying a deck because somebody that I followed recommended one, and I did a bit the same. Was like, yeah, I don't have no idea what they're talking about, and that doesn't really resonate with me. I ended up buying one of Rebecca Campbell's Oracle decks.
Okay.
I'm trying to think what the name of it is, but it was like her first one, and I loved that. And that's probably the one that I used for the longest period of time. Do you have a quote or a mantra that has helped you find inspiration or motivation when you've needed it the most?
Um, it's not really. I guess it's the thing that I sometimes say to myself is add a dash of courage. And that comes from Nadine Champion, who was also in her Empire Builder. She is a really great professional speaker, and
Okay.
she talks about 10 seconds of courage. That's kind of like her signature talk. And within that, it's like you just need 10 seconds of courage to do the thing, and the rest will follow. And whether that be the first 10 seconds of standing in front of an audience to speak, it's the first 10 seconds is always the trickiest. And then, like, you're there, so you might as well just keep going. Or if it's, pitching to somebody for your business, or if it's making a new friend, or whatever it might be, it's just that first 10 seconds, right? That 10 seconds of courage. So in my head, if ever I'm like needing that extra bit of motivation or inspiration, or I'm just feeling a little bit like, that imposter syndrome is there, or anything, I just go, right. add a dash of courage. Like, you can do this. This is going to be okay. And I've shared that with a few people and they're like, oh, I love that. That's so good. So I thought that might be a good one to share with you today.
I do love that. That's brilliant. Thank you. Definitely adding that to my repertoire. I have a Mama Love mixtape on Spotify full of spirit lifting songs. What song can I add for you?
I love a good beat and I love 90s. So I'm going to say Bust a Move, which is
Nice one.
by Young MC. So it's not kind of like, there's not really any motivational, aspirational lyrics to it or anything like that. It's just a good groove song that I think just gets you a bit pumped up.
Great. Love it. I don't think it doesn't necessarily need to have any spiritual meaning. It's just what feels good for you. So I love it. Tell me what you're working on at the moment or what's coming up for you.
I'm doing a lot of work promoting the Regional Businesswomen's membership because that is something that I feel really passionate about. And so within that, it's the community piece around connecting women all across Australia in different areas of regional Australia to feel seen and heard and celebrated. It's also where, you can grab your business development skills. We had Jackie Naunton from White Deer come in and present our masterclass about brand design and graphic design. We had Laura Elkis-Lassie come in and talk about the Profit First method. We bring in different people and I present masterclasses too around topics that help to grow your business skills. But then we also have that mindset and soul set piece that comes in as well. We've talked a lot about mindset and it's such a big part of being a business owner. So we have masterclasses around that. And then we also have our 90-day planning session. We do a monthly marketing focus session, and we also do group coaching every month as well. So it's a great container of, I feel like, a very holistic balance of support that all business owners need. So I'm going to be talking a lot more about that. And, that's going to be one of my biggest focuses over the next year or two, is to really build that. The other thing that I'm working on a lot at the moment is a rebrand of my podcast. So it's getting a bit of a glow up. So as I mentioned, it has been the She's in Business podcast for the last, I think it's been 3 years. And now it's going to be a bit of a name change to the Regional Business Growth podcast. So yeah, and you can find both of those things on my website if either of them are to anyone of interest. Yeah.
Beautiful. And where else do you hang out? Are you an Instagram girl or?
Yeah, I'm an Instagram girl. So my handle is Donna Hann, which is HANN for November, _coach. So Donna Hann _coach is my Instagram handle. And then my website's just donnahann.com. So you can find me there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, for bringing your open heart and all of your stories with you. It's been so lovely to chat to you, and thanks for all you do to support regional women to step into their potential and grow beautiful businesses.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for being here in the Light Seekers Lounge with me today. If this episode resonated with you, I would so love it if you could share it, leave a review, or come and say hi to me over on Instagram at annielove.coach. Until next time, keep seeking the light.